Welcome to the show today, guys. Buckle up. We have an amazing guest for you today, my friend Robert Netzly. Robert Netzly is the CEO of Inspire Investing or Inspire Advisors, and they are taking back a culture of life through biblically responsible investing. I don't know if you've heard about biblically responsible investing, but guys, this is actually how we win. This is incredible. Just like Every Life Diaper is a sponsor of this show, and we're supporters of Public Square because they're connecting freedom-loving Americans with businesses that support their values, because the way we fight back is with our dollars and with our wallet, because that's how the left has won. The same thing is true with your investments and your portfolios. Did you know, if you're listening to this and you invest and you have a portfolio and a retirement account or whatever, you are probably funding woke agendas and companies that are wrapped up in your portfolio and you don't even know about it. So once again, how can you create a culture of life by funding a culture of death? Robert Netzly realized this. God called him to launch this company. They are now the fastest growing. They've gotten all these awards. They've helped actually move corporations away from funding woke agendas, because they say, well, our people that we whose funds we manage are not going to invest with you. We're going to walk away from you. This is a powerful way to fight back in the culture of death. One could argue it's the most powerful way, and it's actually the way that we preserve freedom, life, and liberty for future generations, and most importantly, honor and steward what God has given us as his sons and daughters. So guys, you're going to enjoy this episode. I want you to share it with your friends, your family members, your pro-choice friends. Robert Netzly, the CEO of Inspire Investing. This is going to be a real treat. Listen to the whole episode and reshare it. Let's get into it. This is the Seth Gruber Show. Well, welcome to the show, Robert. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Hey, my pleasure, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been talking you up and Inspire Advisors because, over here at the Seth Gruber Show, we actually, our sole sponsor is Every Life Diaper, which was started by the same couple who launched Public Square. And they, just like you, just warriors in the culture to actually rebuild a culture of life. And so one of the things I love about you, and this is what I want you to share with our listeners, is even now in 2024, brother, a lot of conservative, Christian, pro-life individuals don't even know how much their own dollars are being used to fund a culture of death. Not just in the economy, not just with their shopping and their home goods and stuff like this, but with their investing, with their portfolios. People who, if they knew what their portfolio was funding, would probably have a heart attack, because they're really passionate believers. They love the Lord. They love the family. They want to rebuild a culture of life in America. And the things their portfolio funds couldn't be more satanic, evil, and the complete antithesis of everything they care about. How is it, brother, that so many Americans don't understand that? How did we get to this point, and when did you realize that?
Yeah, you're right. It's there's a lot going on there, and we have really been totally out to lunch on, totally unaware, and I am in that category myself, right? So, how did we get here? I think it's honestly just not paying attention. The world has changed around us. I'm specifically talking about the investment industry. Where I live and breathe here. Go back 100 years, the world of investments was a lot simpler than it is today, right? There's so many intermediaries between here and there, between the company and the ticker symbol in your 401k nowadays,
Right.
that I think the modern investor had just sort of you look at your statement on your 401k, your IRA, or whatever it is, and it's just dollars and cents and some numbers and some letters, and did it go up or down? That's what you want to know. And it's so disconnected from the actual companies that you are an owner of as an investor through your mutual fund or whatever it is. You're an owner of that company, and that sense of ownership has been disassociated. Similarly to how our culture is trying to disassociate a life in the womb, right? Life outside the womb, and life in it is life at conception, before and after the baby is born, right? And there's this sort of attempt to disassociate that and to make it, irrelevant or immaterial. And but there's a real link between the the business activities that a company is doing. Are they selling abortion drugs? Are they distributing pornography and making money on that? And the returns that you're earning in your portfolio come from those activities, right? So my personal story. So I was a financial advisor, back in the day, and at a big Wall Street firm. My office was in a nice little town called Carmel, California, and a nice little drive down the coast every day, right? Life was good. Wasn't looking to change anything in my scenario there. But then I stumbled across this article one day online, just on accident. I was looking for a Bible study to teach at my church, and this article was on something called biblically responsible investing, and where you're looking at the moral aspect of a portfolio as well as the financial aspect.
Right.
What are these companies doing to turn a profit that I'm showing up in my portfolio? And I was just kind of curious. I'd heard of like green investing or whatever else back then, but I'd never really thought from a biblical values perspective,
Yeah.
like what was going on. So I was curious, looked inside my portfolio, my clients' portfolios, and honestly, the Holy Spirit just gripped my heart on this issue, because here I was, president of our local pro-life pregnancy center at the time. And I own 3 stocks of companies manufacturing abortion drugs.
Wow.
And it just hits me upside the head that every time that young lady goes across the street to Planned Parenthood, has an abortion, like, I just made money in that transaction. I literally profited from that transaction.
Wow.
And I'm recommending all my clients do the exact same thing. And I was just totally oblivious, right? And if anybody should have been aware, it should have been me, right? A financial professional, dedicated pro-life advocate, dedicated Christian, active in pro-life advocacy. Like, I should have thought about this, and I had not. And never in all of my training or education or anything else through the industry, even interaction with other Christians in the industry for that matter, did the idea even come up, if we've even thought about this. So here I was, 2 weeks later, I was dead in the water. I just couldn't do my job with a clean conscience, because I just, didn't know what to do with myself. I can't place another trade that's going to profit from the death of an unborn child. I can't do that. And then you go down the list of other things: pornography sales, human trafficking. There's all sorts of stuff going inside of portfolios and what these companies are doing. There's no surprise to us now, but it was a surprise I just had never connected those dots, right? And so I just couldn't do my job. I went home, told my wife, "Hey, honey, here's what I found. I think God's calling us somewhere else, out of the industry," right? And she's like, "Well, we got 2 babies in the mortgage, so what's the plan?" And I had no plan, so we just start praying, seeking the Lord's will, and as He does, He just made it abundantly clear He was calling us to leave the bank, start an independent firm that just did some sort of biblical something or other investing. I didn't even know what to call it. It could even be possible to invest a different way. But it was just unmistakable calling. So anyway, 2 months later, made the incredibly frightening decision to walk away from all my income, left my clients with the team I had been with at the bank, started over from scratch, just me and a laptop, less than 2 months of savings in the bank, fully prepared, never to pay my mortgage ever again in my life, frankly. Like, no idea really how this was going to work, but I just knew that God was calling me to do this. And it was like, okay, Lord, your turn to show up, because I don't know what's going to happen. So,
wow.
I started educating people about what I had found. Here's what I found. Here's what I'm doing. And they had the same reaction I did. Their eyes got really big. Their jaw hits the floor.
Wow.
And they say, "Well, I've never thought about this before. How do I find out what I'm actually invested in? How does it look to invest differently?" All these things. And this practice started booming. I mean, God just blessed it. To the point where I needed to bring other advisors into the firm. One advisor led to 2, led to 5, led to 10. To hundreds of Christian advisors over the next couple of years, reaching out and hearing about what was going on in our little neck of the woods, and having they had the same sort of conviction experience. The Spirit was working on them too. Because obviously God was at work, and my big dream was maybe having an assistant one day back then. Like, this was never part of my plan, right? I had no grand vision to build any sort of enterprise whatsoever. God had different plans. This was back in 2011, right? So it's going on a little while. And what I saw just was God was working. He's opening the eyes of His people to this huge problem and this huge opportunity to just, be intentional. Like, don't invest in that. Instead, invest in this. And we can make some pretty big impact. So it's been incredible. So we've grown. I'll spare you the whole story, but eventually what we found was there was just not enough, investment products and funds and things to really have a robust offering for Christian investors or other just conservatives who share similar biblical, Judeo-Christian sort of values. And that led us to start Inspire Investing in 2015, the company that I run today. And we've grown from there, this very humble beginnings, to the world's largest provider of faith-based exchange-traded funds. We manage over $2.5 billion in assets and growing. We've been named in the top 3 fastest growing investment firms in the nation several times, Inc. 5000, top quartile, most successful, fastest growing private companies in America. The list goes on. We're incredibly humbled. It's amazing. But that's the thing, is God is at work, opening the eyes of his people to this huge problem and this huge opportunity. And now you have options. Like, you don't have to invest in abortion drug companies, pornography companies, woke LGBT activist companies. Like, there are other options, many other options, very good options, I might add, that can help you reach your financial goals. And we just don't have to do business with Babylon the Great, to get by. So that's the short story, kind of where we're at, where we came from, and praise God, because it's amazing to see him work.
Now, so for our listeners for whom this is sort of like a jaw drop again, like, oh my gosh, if you, as a Christian president of the board of a pro-life pregnancy center and financial advisor, had 3 different kinds of abortion holdings and drugs in your portfolio and you didn't know it, how difficult is this stuff to actually find out? For the people listening who have their own portfolios, like, I'm assuming it's not just right there front and center. I'm assuming it requires a little bit of digging. What kind of work does Inspire Investing doing and providing in terms of being able to actually get this kind of data and know what's wrapped up in your portfolio? And where do people begin? Obviously, they should work with you, and we're going to put all that info in the show notes. But where do they begin this journey of almost untangling their portfolio from the culture of death?
Yeah, that's exactly, where the rubber meets the road, is that first discovery. Like, what do we, the first question is, well, what do I actually own? It occurs to me all of a sudden that, yes, there's all these evil companies that I know of. I can name several of them, and I probably boycott several of them for that matter, or whatever, the case may be. They're probably in your portfolio, right? And so, but how do you find out? And because Wall Street doesn't care, I'll just tell you that straight up. Like, they don't care about these particular issues. They care about other issues. They don't care about these issues in the same way you and I care about them. And so what we've done at Inspire Investing is put together software where you can put in a ticker symbol of any stock, mutual fund, or ETF that you own, and for free, anonymous, online, 24/7. Just go to inspireinvesting.com. You find the link to our technology there. Put the ticker in, and it'll show you all the good, bad, and the ugly from a biblical values perspective. What's going on, down to the nitty gritty of, okay, this mutual fund in your 401k owns this stock that on this date gave this much money to Planned Parenthood, right? Or supported this gay pride parade, or manufactures this abortion drug, or fill in the gaps. And it's all ranked there. You don't have to have a PhD in finance or data science. It's all point and click, and it's free. So we've invested millions into that software just from our company, and that's part of our mission. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of tickers are now being searched through there on a regular basis. And to God be the glory, right? So as his people, as we realize what the problem is, and we can quantify that, yes, in my investment portfolio, in fact, lurks, a top 10 hit list from hell of investment, theses. I can now know which ones where the problems are, and it's frankly pretty simple to then fix those problems. It's just, instead of this, I buy this, right? And we have a whole team, people here that, if you want to, we can do an impact report, again, free service, and just kind of connect the dots for you, make it really simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, inspireinvesting.com is the source for all. If you really want to get red pilled, I guess that's that's the site, inspireinvesting.com, and gird your loins.
You wrote a great article here I just found, Robert, on christianpost.com called "Revealing the Abortion Industry Loophole." And just so everyone understands how real this stuff is that you're talking about, you said here, the reality is alarming. Perhaps even more disturbing is that almost every pro-life investor is profiting from these abortifacient drugs through companies they hold in their portfolios, meaning that those who are advocating for life are unknowingly profiting from death. Let that sink in.
And so who are these companies? Meet the abortion drug dirty dozen companies leading the charge in manufacturing and distributing the abortifacient drug mifepristone and misoprostol. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Organon, Novartis, Cooper Companies, Teva Pharmaceutical, Bayer, Perrigo Company, Corcept Therapeutics, Endo International, Amphastar Pharmaceuticals, Antares Pharma. I mean, some of these groups, this means nothing to people, and yet it's very likely that if you're a successful individual with a growing portfolio, you probably are wrapped up in a lot of these holdings.
Right. Yeah. And nowadays, right, if you own a portfolio that is, again, in a 401k, or you do your own investing or what have you, you probably own some sort of large company fund of some sort, right? The biggest companies, an index fund, maybe, Johnson & Johnson, one of those names, Pfizer. I mean, these are massive companies that are in just about every large stock mutual fund. They're just sort of commoditized, and they're in there. It'd be very rare, for an investor to look in their portfolio and not find at least one or two or three of those companies that you just named. And that's just the abortion drug manufacturers. And there's the others that are like doing abortion travel and all the other things. It would be incredibly rare to have a portfolio that somehow missed all those things. And you'd have to have a really like niche portfolio, some kind of wonky strategy going on, if you weren't like intentionally trying to build a portfolio without them, because all the standard building blocks, all the standard funds and indexes and et cetera, include these companies. So you really have to just, it's not hard to avoid them if you're building funds like ours. It's just, there's a handful of companies we don't put in, and we build indexes without them. And so you can get the same exposure and similar, investment return profiles and risk return profiles, just, not including this handful of companies is the idea.
So unless you're very, very aware and intentional with your portfolio, you're saying that in the majority, if not in exclusively, your portfolio is wrapped up probably in Netflix, in Disney, soft pornography, abortion travel, the transgenderism industry. All of this junk is probably in most people's portfolios.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And, and then the question often comes, well, if all these companies are doing all these terrible things, and who's left, right? Like, are there any companies that are not involved in these things? Because the perception, you open up any newspaper or turn on any, podcast these days, it's like every company in America seems to have just gone off the woke cliff and are supporting all these things, is the impression. The reality is very different. The overwhelming majority, so 85%, let's say, right around in there, of publicly traded companies in the United States, according to the most stringent standards of screening that we implement, pass all the screens. They're completely fine. They're making shoes. They're making shoes. They're making toothpaste. They're making toothpaste. Right? They're not embroiling themselves in contentious social issues. Pushing legislation, sponsoring this. They're not doing all those things. It's really concentrated in those biggest of the biggest companies, those massive mega cap companies, the Targets and et cetera of the world, that they just, hey, we're so big now, what are we going to do? Let's push some agendas, right? And they're the ones that get involved in all these things, and it's really the same bad actors doing more bad acting on a daily basis, right? That just sort of makes the perception seem that all of corporate America has gone bad. The reality is, it's just there's some bad apples, right, at the very top of the food chain, so to speak, that just keep multiplying their nefarious deeds, but most companies in America are not.
Yep.
And we we've got a lot of interesting stories about engagement, and we're actually talking to a lot of these companies on a regular basis, hundreds of them over the past year or so, and on an annual basis, to engage, like speaking biblical truth to corporate power.
Yeah.
And it's shocking in a good way. Sometimes the impact we can have just by speaking up. So there's a lot of hope there, but you just have to be just aware. Like, we just can't give our money to some advisor or to some mutual fund company and say, hey, do with this what you will, because guess what they're going to do with it?
Yep.
They're going to put it into what they think. They're taking your vote and they're voting it for you.
Yep.
Like, we would never do that. Like, hey, here's my ballot to somebody who has, diametrically opposed viewpoints, could you just go vote for me?
Yeah.
It's exactly what we're doing with our dollars when we just outsource it to, fill in the blank Wall Street firm
Yep.
to go invest the dollars. Because they also get to vote your proxies. And they actually do get to vote with the companies and what policies get passed, things like abortion, travel, et cetera. Like if they came up on the ballot, they get to vote on those things. Guess what? Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, guess what they vote for? Wells Fargo. I mean, it's not surprising that that we have some of these issues today because we just have sort of outsourced it, and we need to take a little bit better care as stewards of what's actually going on with our money.
We'd like to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diapers. Every Life Diapers. Guys, come on, send this to your pregnancy resource centers that you support locally. Okay, send like your church. Can you go to the person who runs the nursery at your church and give them promo code Seth10, everylife.com? Why? Because every major baby brand in America rhetorically or financially supports the abortion industry. So the companies that profit more off of baby products if more babies are born, all 8 of the major brands rhetorically or financially support the killing of babies in the womb, so they make less money because they're helping kill more babies. What? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, welcome to the woke mind virus. Welcome to the culture of death. You need to fight back with your dollars. Go to everylife.com, everylife.com. If you're having kids, if your son or daughter is having kids, if your sister or brother is having kids, if your church has a nursery or a pregnancy resource center in your city, go to everylife.com, promo code Seth10 to get 10% off your first order and to know that we sent you. Promo code Seth10, everylife.com. We need to support the only pro-life diaper company in America.
This kooky, evil culture of death, and kind of moaning about it. If like your portfolio is helping fund it, and we're not attacking you, listener Christian. Like you could be totally ignorant. Like don't get us wrong. We're not like yelling saying you're idiots. We're saying like this is such a systemic problem that good people who would immediately change their portfolio if they knew don't know. And so that's, if you're listening, guys, that's why I wanted to have Robert on, because it's the same reason I'm such big fans of Public Square. It's the same reason that all 8 major baby companies in America rhetorically or financially support the abortion industry, and who are having the most babies? Pro-lifers. So it's actually pro-life Christians having the most babies, buying the most diapers, spending those dollars with pro-abortion baby companies. It's unreal. It's the same problem that Robert's trying to articulate to you guys right now. This should be a given to our listeners, Robert. But just to like frame this in the biblical context, like if you were giving a seminar to some new believers, very rich, well-endowed believers, very, very new baby Christians, like what's the Bible study? What's the breakdown Bible course on biblically responsible investing?
Yeah. I mean, it starts with 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. So there's very clearly no part of your life that is outside of seeking to glorify God. It's not like, well, I'm going to make my money however I make my money, and then like some spiritual money laundering scheme, give it away to the church or some charity, and now it doesn't matter if I was doing drug deals in the corner, if I give it away to Mother Teresa sort of a thing. That doesn't work, right? It's like every part of our life is to glorify God. So if I can eat my oatmeal, right, in the morning, whatever, eat or drink, if I can eat to the glory of God, certainly I can invest his money, whether it's, a couple dollars or a couple $1 million for God's glory. And then it's, ask the question, so what would a God glorifying portfolio look like? Right? We're not trying to be legalistic. We're not seeking God's approval, through some sort of works-based righteousness, or like trying to distance ourselves from some evil world that's going to pollute our soul. Like we are washed in the blood of Christ. We stand justified and righteous before God because of what Christ has done, not because of what we do, but because of that, we seek to glorify him and have, let your light so shine before men so that they may see your good deeds and give glory to your Father in heaven. So if I ask the question, what would the most God-glorifying investment look like? If you could just say, design a company that if I want to put my money into this sort of company that would be the most God-glorifying, like what would that company look like? And alternatively, what would like the least God-glorifying sort of company look like? So do one and not the other, right? And it's really that simple. If a company is making money on abortion drugs, if they're selling pornography, are they, if they're advocating actively, openly, aggressively for, LGBT, transgender activism, those are not God glorifying investments, right? Like those are not God glorifying. Instead, what about a company trying to cure cancer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, abortifacients or, curing cancer.
Yeah.
Which one do we want to invest in? There's, water infrastructure around the world. It helps give clean water to, people in developing nations. There's publicly traded companies that do that.
Yep.
Versus, whatever else. That's it, right? Asking what is glorifying to God, what is not, and just starting there, and the impact. Let's kind of take a little tangent here on the impact. I was surprised. Several years ago, we realized that one of the companies in our portfolio was so Costco was in our portfolio, and we realized they started giving money to some gay pride parades. So that was like problematic to us. They'd never done that before, and we're like, well, hey, what's going on? So we, just instead of just selling the company out of our portfolios, I figured, well, let's just send them an email. Sent an email into their investor relations. Not really expecting much. This is, years ago. We were like teeny. We're still relatively small compared to the very big investment firms. Then we were, nobody should give us the time of day. The time, the size we were. But within 2 hours, I got a phone call back from the chief financial officer.
Wow.
of Costco. He was like in the airport getting on a plane.
Wow.
And he's like, so I got this email forwarded to me from our staff, something about gay pride. Like, what's going on? He's like, what are you asking about? Anyway, so over the next few weeks, I was able to have this dialogue with him, explain who we were. Christian investors were, helping people invest for the glory of God. And this is problematic for us. We would like our companies not to take our profits and donate them to things that are just antithetical to our viewpoints, right? Instead of gay pride praise, could you just give it to like the Red Cross or something, or something that's like not contentious, and just do your job, like do the business you want to do. And to his credit, like this guy, he agreed, right? I don't think he was a believer, but he just was like, we at Costco, like we don't want to be involved in contentious social issues.
Yeah.
And so he issued a memo across the whole company that no more of that, right? He hunted it down and figured out where those donations came from and who,
Wow.
who and why and where and how, and just put an end to it. So praise God. And we're like, oh, we should do this more often, right? And then, so fast forward, we were able to get Chevron to stop giving money to Planned Parenthood. We were able to get Exxon to stop giving money to another abortion philanthropy. We have sued Target because of their shenanigans in June and misleading statements they gave to investors around this massive loss of shareholder value related to their gay pride assortment in June. And we're seeing success stories, over and over again, just by letting our voice be heard. And what we found is that, even in some of these very big companies that can seem rather woke or whatever, liberal, progressive, all the things, there's people, who these, people of peace or whatever you want to call them, that work there that are believers, that are troubled the same way we are to see the things that are going on in those corporations. Often they're in places of power. Another story, I'll not mention the name of the company just to not throw them under the bus, but there's a large military contractor that makes communications equipment and whatnot for the government military, big publicly traded company. And it's a similar situation. I saw that they were getting some some flags in the LGBT activism category seemed to start arising through their company. And so I reached out, and this, again, CFO got back to me. He ran the investment relations division. And once he sort of figured out this was a safe place, he's like, okay, let me level with you. Like, I'm a Christian. I go to the Calvary Chapel down in XYZ city down the street. I'm in these board meetings, but I can't tell you how much pressure we are under from the left, like the mafia forces on the extreme left, LGBT activist forces trying to get us as a military contractor to do all these things, the transgender, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want to do that as a company, but I can't stand up in the board meeting and say, excuse me, I'm a Christian. I don't think we should do this. Right. Like he can't, he'd be fired. Right. It's just not possible. But he said, now that you have called, Thank you so much, because now I can stand up and say, okay, thank you over here on the left for your opinion on this matter. I just talked to some shareholders over here that had a different opinion, and I think we should just not get involved in this issue and just really make really great communications equipment for our military, and just stick to our knitting and to stay out of that like culture issue over there. And there's time and time again, massive companies, some of the biggest Wall Street firms also we've talked with, that are like these backroom conversations with, with allies at high levels, that have said, thank you for the counter pressure, because now I have something to say.
Yep.
And it's stemming the tide.
Yep.
It's not very public, because again, we don't want to kind of out these people, but it's happening, and it's so awesome. And praise be to God that when we speak that biblical truth to corporate power, like he is, that small rudder turns a big ship.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage everyone here listening, right? It may feel like we're so outnumbered. Like, what could we do against this Goliath of, corporate America, corporate America? You might be surprised.
Yeah.
Just by moving your dollars into a fund company like ours, and others like us who are laboring in this way. When you put your funds with an Inspire ETF, for instance, we get to vote your shares for you. And that gives us more of a megaphone into these companies to voice your values, to speak up for the unborn and other issues, that instead of giving your vote and that megaphone to, fill in the blank Wall Street firm.
Yep. Wow, Robert. Guys, I want to almost just like reframe what he just said. Dominion is inevitable. That's what he just said. Dominion is inevitable. Someone's idea, someone's worldview, someone's religion will actually be ascendant, will be dominant. That's how human nature works. Okay, you can. I'm sorry, but like you can tuck liberalism. You can tuck it up on the shelf with the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. Okay, there will be no neutral public square. There will be no pluralistic society where all of our ideas coexist, and they all respect each other, and none asserts or shoves its agenda onto another's worldview. That's not how human nature works. That's not how human history has ever worked. The more we abdicate and we disengage and we go, well, I'm not actually killing babies. I'm not profiting off of killing babies. It's wrapped up in my portfolio. It's a distant connection with evil. But then what happens? Then the left uses and utilizes the power they have in woke corporatism to accomplish their cultural and social agendas. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now imagine this for a second, guys. Imagine if Inspire Investing and Robert Netzly got to, what are you guys at right now, Robert? Is it, how many billion? Okay, 2.5 billion in management, under management. What if in Inspire Investing, became half the size? Let's just say half the size of Wells Fargo. I want you to start dreaming with me a little bit here, Christian, of the kind of cultural and social power we could wield if Inspire Investing in groups like it were that big. Chevron, Costco, whatever else he just said, Exxon, those are incredible wins. Those are less babies that will be killed. That's a wall that's being built up against the diddle the kids and kill the babies and destroy the family agenda. That's stemming evil. And that's he just said it. We're not even that big of a deal yet, but you're gonna be, brother. And we're gonna be praying that you are. And I just want you guys to see that we can't separate the gospel from culture. From saying, well, we preach the gospel and salvation of souls, but I just preach the gospel. I don't do the culture war stuff. What are you talking about? It's all the same thing. Your faith should drive you to want to get engaged in these ways. And the Bible talks about how God, that he actually prepared good works for you in advance that you might walk in them. And so we're actually missing out on the greatest adventure. Robert's living an amazing, adventurous, beautiful life right now because he's been obedient and God's blessing it. And now fruit is coming from that. Victories for righteousness, for life, for liberty, for the family, for children's innocence. And yet, they're all just 2.5 billion. Yeah. What if they were 15 billion, 100 billion? This is why Christians need to take stewardship seriously again, because we can actually have a massive influence on culture when we're as insistent and passionate and zealous for our faith and pure and undefiled religion as the left is for their kooky, weird culture of sex death cult. Okay. So I just wanted to put that in context again, because what he just said was incredible. And if we were fighting with our dollars as unapologetically as the left already does, this country would look different, wouldn't it, Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. And the number is $21 trillion. So 21 trillion is by triangulating figures from the IRS and Pew Research and the US Census, that's the stocks, mutual funds, bonds, et cetera, that are owned just in retirement accounts in this country by people who profess a Christian faith, Protestants, evangelicals, Catholics, and Orthodox. Now, there's, of course, a broad dispersion of values within that category. Even if we're half right or 10% right, that 21 trillion is 2/3 approximately of the entire retirement fund market in this country. Hello, right? I mean, and let alone all the stuff outside of retirement accounts that are invested. If we even just got a little bit focused here, this would be enormous. I mean, BlackRock is, $3 trillion right now, the world's largest asset manager, 3 trillion. 21 trillion just in retirement funds with people who profess to have a biblical faith. Man, that's huge opportunity. And from where I sit, it's really encouraging because we have been growing like a weed, doubling, in size on a regular basis. And just, it seems like that's picking up. But there's just so much room for more, right? There's so much room for more.
Amazing, Robert. Also, you know what? You might actually, your portfolio might not perform as well. Maybe it will, Christian. Maybe it won't. Maybe it performs a little more poorly than it currently is. And you know what? Who cares? Who cares? God's going to bless your obedience and stewardship by sowing into righteousness. But I know Robert and his team are so good that it's probably not something you need to worry about. But I'm saying it's a cost you should be willing to count nonetheless because it's worth it.
And we get that. Obviously, it's a question, right? And one of the ideas is that, for instance, we don't own any of the Magnificent Seven, the so-called Magnificent Seven. Maleficent Seven might be better. Netflix, Amazon, Google, etc. And if you look at the financial news, well, it seems like these are the only companies that are making any sort of returns, right? If you're going to make money, you got to invest in these companies. Well, there's a lot of other companies that are doing better than them. They just never hear about them on the news, right? And over the years and through anecdotal data, experiential data, as well as all the research that we've had done by institutions like Biola University and others who've looked into this from a research perspective, we can confidently say and have proven in experience and through these research that good values and good returns are not mutually exclusive. There's no reason that just because you want to invest biblically or what have you, that you must have a performance detriment. That doesn't add up. It's not a real thing. I know it's a fear that people have in their minds, like good guys finish last sort of a thing. It's not real. Now, I like what you said, however, investing biblically is not a guarantee of better returns, right? It's just sort of a neutral thing. Like you can invest really well or really poorly with biblical values, like by screening in or out different companies. But it's true that you're not required to take remedial returns just because you want to do a good thing. And you can do even the same, if not better, financially, with a biblically aligned portfolio.
Yep. So
that's sort of a given. Now, I will also add, there's a proverb that says, "Better is a little with righteousness than great gains with injustice."
Wow.
If you had to make that decision between more returns or investing with righteousness, right? Which one would it be?
Yeah.
And frankly, all of us do that right. Well, hopefully all of us do that right now because I can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money slinging crack on the corner, right? Starting up some illegal prostitution ring, whatever. Like we can make a ton of money. I hear it's really profitable, but all of us would say, "Oh, I would never do that." Right? Why? It's illegal. It's against the law. It's immoral. Okay. Well, you're limiting your returns based on moral values and what the law of man says is wrong. So how much more should we be willing to limit our returns if we had to, based on the law of God? God says, killing unborn children in the womb, whether it's through surgery or a pill, no matter how early or late, is wrong. It's immoral. It's murder. I shouldn't make money on that. So are we willing to limit our returns based on the law of God, like we do so on the law of man?
Yep.
why is that a problem for us, right? And that's our heart. That just gets to our, again, I'm not putting this on you. I had the same heart in me that sort of like, wants to make more money. That's the flesh. And we just got to be real with that. And take that to the Lord. God, you're going to take care of me.
Yep.
I don't have to be afraid of my retirement. You've promised to care for me.
Yes.
I want to be faithful to you. I want to glorify you in everything I do, whether I eat or drink, whatever I do to all the glory of God. I'm going to step out in faith, and I'm going to invest in a way that it's seeking to honor you. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's the first step of many that I can take, but I want to move towards faithfulness and act in a way that through prayer and searching and everything else, like I want to glorify you. God will take care of you.
That's right.
Right? I mean, he's not going to promise you riches and fame and all those things. It's not prosperity gospel. But he's not going to like punish you for it, right? He's going to take care of you.
Yep.
You're going to have what you need, and probably more so, right? More than you thought. God is good. He's a good father. He cares for you, and he does honor acts of faith in many ways, not just financial, right? But eternally, man, if your investments could save just one life,
that's right.
Because instead of giving it to investing it over here, you invested it over there. That'd be worth it, right? That'd be worth it. So just don't do nothing. Just don't do nothing.
Yep.
Do something. Go to Inspire Investing, type in your ticker symbol for free, learn what you own. That's where it starts.
Yep.
If you want some help, our team is happy to help you, point you in the right direction. If you want to look at our funds, praise God. We'd love for you to do that. There's a lot of ways. Just start doing something, right? Don't just sit there.
What if your investing could just save one life? That would all be worth it. That's really good, brother. Robert, where can people get your book? Tell us about your book. Tell us your website. Make sure people get it right. And then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. Yeah. InspireInvesting.com is the main kind of all roads of Inspire go through there. We do have a few different businesses and a wealth management division and a technology and all those things, but just go to InspireInvesting.com. You'll find everything you need there. My book is called Biblically Responsible Investing for God's Glory and Your Joy. You can buy it wherever phenomenal books are sold, if I do say so myself, and would love for you to read it. It's a lot of the same stories you're hearing here, like these success stories and really just the movement that's going on.
Yep.
It's not a heavy financial book. It's about the movement.
Yep.
And hopefully it can be motivating to you and give you some first steps to get started and something great easy thing to give to somebody that you think might have an interest to and help spread the movement. So, man, Seth, thank you so much for having me. It's been great talking to you.
Well, anyone, brother, of whom the New York Times says is intolerant right here, I'm saying about you, probably means you're a warrior, actually, if that's what the New York Times say. And that's what I just pulled up about Robert Netzly. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Netzly, Inspire Investing, Biblically Responsible Investing. This is how we win, actually. This is the way. Keep it up, brother. Guys, start going to work on your portfolio. Come on. This is easy stuff. This is an easy way to fight back, to stand for righteousness, to steward your dollars. It's how the left has ushered in this culture of death. It's how we need to fight back with our wallets. Brother, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. God bless. Well, thank you guys for joining the show today. Head on over to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Give the show a rating and review with our recent relaunch and rebrand to the Seth Gruber Show. We're going to be having a more diverse set of guests on the show because, as we shared with you, God has called me to be a voice in this culture. I have this burden on my heart. I can't stay silent, and I can't just stay in my pro-life lane and say, well, don't kill babies. Yeah, don't kill babies. That's wonderful. Of course, you shouldn't kill babies. But if you didn't just learn from the conversation with Robert, a lot of the stuff is very interconnected. The woke culture of death agenda isn't just like, oh, we're going to kill the babies. It's like they tend to walk in lockstep anytime any of their core sacraments is compromised. And of course, you got Planned Parenthood as the second largest provider of transgender drugs, but they're also the largest abortion provider in the world. How do you make sense of that? Planned Parenthood doesn't stay in their lane. The cultural Marxist revolutionaries don't stay in their lane. They want a total global revolution. Guess what the first revolution was, ladies and gentlemen? It was called Christianity. Great Commission, to the uttermost, to the very ends of the earth. Satan has a great commission too. Yes, shocker. He wants his woke priests and priestesses in the sex cult to evangelize and disciple the next generation to the uttermost, to the very ends of the earth, baptizing them in the name of their father, Satan, teaching them to obey all that he has commanded you. Did God really say, eat the apple, your eyes will be open, ye shall be as gods? Okay, this is how the culture works. The culture war is always interconnected with other agendas. Christianity is the faith, the true and undefiled religion that lifted people out of poverty, that gave respect to women as human beings and people, that said, hey, children shouldn't be thrown off the city walls in Rome because they have a cleft lip, and Christians were rescuing them and raising them. We started all the colleges. We started all the schools to raise up the next generation of pastors. We started all the orphanages. We did all the foster care. That's all Christianity. It's okay. Western civilization is a byproduct of Christianity. So we love you guys. We love that you listen to this show, but this is why it's no longer unaborted. And it's the Seth Gruber Show, because we can't just say, don't kill babies, don't abort babies. If you want to deal with tearing down these ideologies, these high places, child sacrifice, this wickedness, you actually have to understand how the enemy works. And to understand how the enemy works, you actually have to start being a thinker. You need to become a warrior poet, actually. You need to become like the sons of Issachar in First Chronicles. They were men who understood the times, and so they knew what Israel ought to do. That's what this new show is all about. We're so glad that you're continuing in this journey with us. Give us 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify. More people will see it. Subscribe at YouTube. Subscribe at Rumble. For once I'm digitally assassinated at YouTube. Share this interview and episode with your friends. Robert Netzly, Inspire Investing. What a hero. What a warrior. Go support him. Bring him to speak. Get your portfolio set right. This is the way. Until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.